You guys heard about $70 video games, right? We all heard about $70 video games. Well, we're already thinking about $80 video games now. And Borderlands 4 might indeed be $80. Fuck that? Well, what they say is fuck you.
That's it. I'm going to get one of those signs that sits behind me that says 0 days since last industry controversy. Yep. I have never seen so many companies so ready, so willing, such in a rush to try to give players more reasons not to buy their games. I sit back and I read some of this stuff and I'm just like, why can't you guys be normal just for like a week? Now we have CEO Randy Pitchford coming forward to say that real fans will be able to find a way to buy their games for $80. Brushing off.
Only the real fans are going to be able to spend $80 on our looter shooter slop game with millennial humor and mediocre graphics and below average gameplay. That's only for the real fans.
Price increases, and then also turning it into a fandom purity test. That is a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how that pays off for you. Too many times these publishers and studios are betting on blind consumerism.
Yeah.
And time again, they are proven wrong. They do not.
It's basically like the AAA game industry. Their business model is that people are retarded. And they hope that if people are dumb enough, that maybe they can make money off of them. That's what it's all about.
Realize how far their actions and their words travel. Every cash out and every crash out, it's costing them. It's costing them dearly. So today what I want to do is I want to give a lesson on brand economics. As a fan, Randy, we're going to talk about how your brand influences your financial performance and ultimately your future. Because Borderlands 4 is not the kind of game that I would just assume everybody's going to buy, regardless of how much money they have or how big of a fan they are, or better yet, used to be. With both Nintendo and Xbox increasing their prices up to $80, it's expected that other publishers will fall in line soon. And most players are already wondering which games are going to be the next ones to make the jump.
Here's the problem is that a lot of these games, like, they're just not worth $70 or $80. That's the big issue, is that Randy's right, but Randy's not making Elden Ring. You're not making Baldur's Gate 3. You're making another looter shooter.
And executives have already weighed in on the topic, and in a surprising twist, EA CEO Andrew Wilson had already stated that they have no plans to raise their prices at this time, regardless of...
Well, yeah, because you have a million fucking microtransactions, and you're farming 5-year-olds with FIFA gambling. Oh, yeah, you don't need to raise the price.
Does.
What a surprise.
That statement alone tells you how volatile this topic has become. Players are becoming more price sensitive by the day, not just because of inflation, but because the price of games already went up less than 5 years ago from $60 to $70 and now to $80. 2 points on a graph is a coincidence, but 3 is a trend. At this rate, people aren't worried about this price hike. They're more worried about the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why when a fan replies...
Yeah, it's like if games are going up this fast in price, who's to say in 5 years games won't be $120?
To Randy Pitchford on Twitter with a friendly warning,
it
resonated. He said, Randy, this game better not be $80. Don't take that risk. A lot of gamers aren't going to pay $80 and feed this notion of constant price increases. You're the CEO. You have some say when it comes to your publisher. It wasn't hostile. It wasn't aggressive. Just a reasonable concern from someone looking forward to Borderlands 4 and worried about the fact that it might cost too much. And in response, Randy Pitchford delivered what might be the single worst way to answer a paying customer.
No, it's not. It's not even remotely close to the worst way. There's like way more stupid ways of doing this. Yeah, we've seen way worse, okay, guys?
It's not my fault. And B, if you're a real fan, you'll find a way to make it happen. My local game store had Starflight for Sega Genesis for $80 in 1991 when I was just out of high school, working minimum wage in an ice cream parlor in Pismo Beach. And I found a way to make it happen. Right, because nothing says love for a franchise like quietly accepting predatory pricing and bending over at the cash register.
Well, it's also because back then there weren't a bunch of other games at really high quality. That's the other thing, is that whenever you're existing in a market that's really competitive, you have to do something in order to make yourself stand out. So there's two ways that you can make yourself stand out with video games. You either make a really good game or you make your game really cheap. You have Vampire Survivors or you have Elden Ring.
Imagine thinking that fandom is only defined by how much financial discomfort you're willing to endure.
Yeah.
This isn't just tone deaf. This is loyalty tax disguised as nostalgia. So let's break this down. A multimillionaire CEO in 2025, during an era of a housing crisis, inflation, and mass layoffs, is telling players that if they really cared, they would just behave like he did in 1991 when a game still had a...
You just got to go. You got to understand that, brother. You go into the store and you ask to speak with a manager and you got to give him a firm handshake and give him your resume in person. That's how... So back in 1974, I got my first job doing that. And that's all you need to do, all right? Yep.
Physical resale value, didn't have season passes, deluxe editions, microtransactions, or day one DLC. This isn't PR. This is financial cosplay. He's not relating to players. He is romanticizing economic struggle just to justify an $80 video game. That game that he bought in 1991, it didn't come with a deluxe edition, 4 expansion passes, and a 6-month roadmap. You bought it, you played it, you were done with it. So that's not so different from what Borderlands 4 is going to be today.
Here's another component. College, housing, food, and other expenses back then were not rapidly increasing beyond the rate of inflation even at the same time that the amount of money you're making isn't going up at all. So the issue isn't that, so like here's a, like let's say this is, let me go back, this is your money, okay? So this is all of your money. Well, what's happened is that people have been eating into this money. And these circles that used to be this big are now this big. And so you have, for example, food, school. Let me move this over. School. And then you have, let's see, a cell phone. And then let's go ahead and let's do another really big one, right? And let's see. This is obviously, rent, mortgage. Yeah, mortgage is that? Yeah, it's a T. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, and so like now, like the amount of money that people have has become like much more minimal. So the issue is that back then you had proportionally more disposable income because you didn't have all of these extra expenses. And the price, like for example, look at the price of tuition for college. And the price of tuition for college, this is the issue that a lot of people, like, I think Randy doesn't really understand this because it's like a third order effect and he's not part of this generation. But this is what happens to a lot of people that go to college, is that they take out a tremendous amount of money in student loans. And the majority of people that play Borderlands 4 are millennials. These are going to be people within the ages of probably like, I don't know, like it's like 28 to like 40, right? And maybe 20 to 40. Let's say like this age group. These people they basically had to make a Faustian pact with the government and say that no matter what, I'm going to pay this ever increasing amount of money back in order to attain this degree that's going to get me a rapidly decreasing in value job. And so this is what happens to these people. They're getting spawn camped. Yes, they are. And they've been groomed into this, right? They've been groomed into this by adults for their whole life. You can't blame a kid at 18 years old after they've spent 12 years in school being told if you don't go to college, you're going to be a loser. You can't blame a kid for taking that risk when they've been groomed into that decision ever since they could exist and even think for themselves. And so the big problem is that a lot of these new costs, Randy might not really be aware of. Like I had a friend of mine, like for example, this is just a personal story, I'm sure. Tell me if you guys, this story either resonates with you or with a friend that you know. I had a friend that got a degree from UT and he got a degree in theoretical physics. Well, it turns out that got him a theoretical job. So he had to go and get a real degree in mechanical engineering. And so after he got that real degree in mechanical engineering, he had over $100,000 in student loan debt. And like obviously, like he now, I mean, I think he's paid all that back, right? He's and like keep in mind, like he was like a top 5%, top 1% person whenever we went to school. Like he was in like honor roll. He was, like had like almost 4.0 GPA. Very, very smart. He's smart in some things. Like he was good at doing assignments in school. Okay, and he's a smart guy, to be fair. And anyway, he's a nerd. It's my boy, right? I mean, we play Magic the Gathering together, and every day. We grew up together, and so like he made the money back, and like so like he's he's fine, but he's the minority, right? He is a hyper minority of people that was able to secure a 6-figure engineering job that now, and also he works his fucking ass off. Like he has to wake up at like 5 in the morning or something like that. Like it's like 5 or 6 in the morning, and he doesn't get home until like 6 or 7. It's insane. And so this guy works his fucking ass off, and like, yeah, he can make the money back. But think about how many people can do that. How many people do that, and they don't even have the money to pay off those student loans. So what Randy doesn't understand, sorry, I'm going off on a big tangent here, is that nowadays you have so many people that are eating into your money cookie that there's only crumbs left. And so you can't use 1991 logic anymore because we're not in 1991. And I understand inflation causes the price of video games to go up, and I get that. But to say that in a vacuum is tone deaf. I think the fact is that, like, whenever we're really old, we are going to lament the times that video games were only $100. I'm being serious. One day that will happen, but it's happening too fast right now.
And that's exactly why this pricing conversation deserves a little bit more care. So no, Randy, your story about saving up while working at an ice cream parlor doesn't justify $80 digital video games. It makes you sound like the kind of guy who thinks eating ramen to afford loot boxes builds character. Pitchford is right about something.
Oh, God. Gotcha
logic.
Fans
will find a way, just not the way that he's going to want them to. They'll wait for a sale, or they will skip it entirely. Some of them are just going to pirate it out of spite, and they're going to do that guilt-free because, unlike Randy, they're not going to be assigning moral weight to a price tag. The best part of this is that other studios picked up on this sentiment. Devolver Digital fired off a surgical strike.
I wish that Devolver made games that I liked more because I love Devolver. I love their events. I think that, like, their vibe, like, they're one of my favorite publishers. And I just wish they made more games that, like, that I would be like, oh my God, I really can't wait to play this.
Twitter saying that you're going to be able to buy MycoPunk for you and 3 of your friends for the price of 1 copy of Borderlands 4. MycoPunk, by the way, is this slick-looking FPS PvE horde shooter that has a demo that's out right now.
Am I crazy for thinking that, like, this and Borderlands are basically, like I don't, like, this looks fine. Like, Borderlands looks fine. Like, it's the same thing. Like, yeah. This is the problem that I think these people don't realize. Like, with Unreal Engine and the other types of advances in technology, these AAA studios are not creating anything special by having good graphics anymore.
Game, by the way, you can probably play that with friends for like 100 hours completely free. Pitchford, not wanting to take the L, retweeted Devolver Digital's post with this bizarre response. MycoPunk is cheaper than 1 point of meth, probably has fewer side effects too. What does that even mean? And now this whole thing is just going to be remembered as 2025.
Well, what does that mean? That means that back in 1991, that wasn't all Randy was spending his money on. Yeah, I say that it wasn't just those Sega games, bro. Like, he spent his money on all kinds of shit.
Don't you guys have phones moment? Or maybe EA's, it's not gambling, it's surprise mechanics. Another one of those tone-deaf executives that are trying to make a point only to remind players they stop trusting these people in the first place. Funny enough, before this happened, Pitchford actually addressed the pricing concerns at a recent Borderlands event. He had said that
I feel bad for Randy in a way, because Randy is right that he is in a place where his hands are tied because publishers generally decide the prices of video games. So he's put in a position where he effectively has to tank the decisions of another person. But I also am not sure, like, how much of this he's really pushing back on privately at all. Because obviously, like, you know, if I was publishing a game, theoretically, imagine if I published a video game, you know, and the developer wanted to price it at a lower price point, I would probably try to work with the developer and do something that they want. Especially if I'm trying to make a business relationship with this person that's going to last for 20 or 30 years.
If Borderlands 4 was going to follow Nintendo or Xbox's pricing, reiterated that it wasn't his call, and then added on that this game's budget is more than double that of Borderlands 3. But he finished by saying that he believes in this game, that it's great, and that it will deliver at any price point. And honestly, it might, but that's not the issue anymore. The sad part is...
No, it won't. It's too much. It's just too much. $80 for a game is too much for something like this in a market that's too oversaturated. Sorry. I mean, if you want the truth, I mean, look at the First Descendant. I mean, the First Descendant, I think, in a lot of ways, has cleaner and better gameplay than it looks like Borderlands does. I'll be honest, I think it does. So, like, why would I not just play that? They lost a lot in the movie.
This didn't have to be a controversy. If Pitchford just said what he had said at the event, or better yet, said nothing at all, the conversation would have moved on. Maybe people would have grumbled about the potential price hike. Maybe they would wait for a sale, but that would have been the end of it. Instead, he gave players another reason not to buy his game. One that has nothing to do with the price tag and everything to do with the person behind it. And that's
I think also there's a big component to it where, like, a lot of consumers don't want to spend money on expensive games because they're worried that by doing so, they will create an ecosystem where those games are allowed to grow and get more popular and make money. It's like you don't want to reward a behavior that you don't want to continue.
The problem is not just about the $80 price tag. It's about the arrogance, the entitlement, and the complete lack of understanding about how players actually think. Pitchford turned what could have been a calm, consumer-level concern into a loyalty test. He didn't just defend the price, he turned it into a challenge, a line in the sand. And this behavior isn't rare anymore. It's become a pattern.
It's patronizing, and I think that it's especially patronizing to young people whenever they see people that are older who grew up in an economy that they felt like, that at least young people from their perspective, that economy was like more rewarding and, you know, people had more of a chance in it. And then to have somebody from that culture come and like talk down to them about selling a product to them, that's going to immediately trigger the fuck out of people. They're going to be mad as fuck about that. And it makes sense. The door is shut behind them. And I think they're right. I do. I think all of these like teenagers and college students and stuff like that that want communism, I think that they're wrong that that's the solution, but they're right that there's a problem.
Across the entire industry.
Huge problem.
We've seen this time and time again, developers and executives who either don't understand the weight that their words can carry, or worse, they think that they're untouchable because of their titles. They treat their personal social media accounts like it's a diary, forgetting that everything they say reflects back on the studio, their coworkers, and the game that they are trying to sell. And when those comments backfire, the damage doesn't just hit them alone, it hits everybody around them.
Yeah.
Just look at Helldivers 2, that game had
This is another really big component, is that when a person at a studio says something, like another great example of this was Matt Hansen from the Avowed studio Obsidian, is that when he started making all these statements about how Elon Musk was bad and he was putting in pronouns in the game and like all this other weird like alienating political language, that kind of stuff hurt the entire studio and it damaged the whole game. And so when you can't keep your mouth shut and then you negatively affect a product in a massive way, you're not just hurting yourself, you're hurting everybody around you. If I was CEO, I would have fired him. No, the reason why they didn't fire him is because the CEO and the people at the company probably agree with him. That's the reason why. And I think that's one of the reasons why people lose trust in these development studios, because you're right. I mean, if he had said the same thing about black people that he said about white people, everybody knows that he'd be out of a job in a day. But the reason why he didn't is because of this double standard. And I think that people resent that double standard. They see it. It's obvious. You can't tell people it's not real. And because of that, you have people that just massively lose trust.
Explosive launch, even with matchmaking issues, bugs, and crashes, players still stuck around because the developers felt like they were connected, passionate, and engaged. But once the first balance patch hit, well, the Reddit post started rolling in, and then one of their developers openly admitted to antagonizing the fans for their own entertainment. Discord mods started banning people using clown emojis on furry art. Then came the now famous "I thought you were refunding the game and leaving" post from one of their community managers during the Sony account linking disaster. It does not matter how good the game was.
The real problem there, in my opinion, was the Discord moderators, and I actually don't mind when a developer is snarky or rude to an obnoxious fan. It's like that Marco Pierre White thing, where it's like some guy is snapping their fingers, telling me what to do, like acting weird, coming in late for dinner. You said you'd be here at 9, it's 9:40, and you just got here. What the fuck is this? Like, nah, get the fuck out. And so, like, I very much dislike the idea that, you know, companies should be punching bags. I really dislike that idea. But at the same time, it was the Discord mods that they had a bunch of furries and weirdos that wanted to put weird shit in Discord and use, and this is for Helldivers. It's for a fucking video game. It was so weird.
The trust was gone. It
And
took
they didn't even
nearly
get rid
a
of it.
year of them replacing staff,
Yeah.
rebuilding goodwill, and delivering real updates for them to be able to recover that audience that they once had by default. Or go look at Starfield. That game's reception was already shaky, but whatever sympathy Bethesda had left had evaporated by the time that their narrative lead, Emil Pagliarulo, logged on to scold players on Twitter saying that they don't understand how hard it is to make games. Instead of just listening to players about what they actually wanted, freedom, personality, a reason to care.
The funny thing is, Emil wasn't completely wrong, but it doesn't matter whether he was wrong or not. That's what these people don't understand, is that you don't negotiate, you don't guilt trip the customer. That doesn't work.
He guilt tripped them as if emotional manipulation.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what you don't do. Yeah, you don't want to do that.
Could patch out a lack of meaningful content. Guess what?
I remember
It
that.
didn't work. Avowed, Concord, Starfield, Helldivers 2, the list goes on. Different games, different studios, same exact
Yep.
problem. Developers treating players like obstacles, personal politics, and petty grudges.
I really like the fact that he said that. Developers that treat players like obstacles. That's exactly the way that I feel. That's a great way to put it.
Overriding professionalism, and every single time the exact same result: disappointment, backlash, silence, and loss of players. That's what makes this all so frustrating. It's not about just one quote or one tweet or one tone-deaf reply. It's about a pattern. These companies are already asking players to pay more than ever. And when the people that are representing those companies act dismissive, snide, or outright combative, it just gives players a very easy reason to just walk away.
Well, it's also, again, like, I really think that we need to talk about the class dynamics in this. You have an older man who enjoyed the privileges of the perceived better economy that is now a multimillionaire that is patronizing younger people trying to buy a product, telling them that, oh, you'll find a way to make it work just like I did. I think that really, really rubs people the wrong way. The same as, if you're a broke boy, just say so. It's the exact same thing. And it's not, and it's really class. Like, obviously, generations matter. Like that, you know, like, it's an older person talking down, and so it's like a perception of a different economy. But people feel the same way about streamers. Like, they do, of course, right? And this is like, for example, like whenever, I don't really sell merch or anything like that. But I remember, like, OTK got negative feedback with, like, you know, certain things that we've sold. Like, they said, oh, this is too much money. And it's like Starforge is a great example. When I was involved with Starforge, on day one, day one was the worst day of that company. No, that's not true. The worst day of the company was probably the day that Trump announced the tariffs. The second worst day of the company was probably the first day. And so, yeah, that was second, because a lot of people were very, very negative about it, right? And they hated it because we had an i3 processor, and like we sat down, and I remember it was an all hands on deck. Like, Charlie was there, Schlatt was there, Tips was there, like all the guys from Starforge was there, I was there, S-Fan Nick was there, everybody was there, right? And we decided that day, we made the decision, the customer is always right. And it doesn't matter what we think the value proposition is. If we're selling this product and the consumer doesn't think the product is valuable and they don't think that it's good, then that is the bottom line. one of the best decisions we made. And that's it. And it's the same as we made decisions with, like, in the EU. Like, we charge higher prices in the EU because we thought it would be better for consumers to give them the upfront costs rather than have it be a surprise when they pay for it at customs. It's, again, and the reason why, it's about respect. It's about respect, and it's about being able to understand your consumer and treat them like you're trying to help them. That's the goal, right? You're trying to create, like, because again, you take a step back, fundamentally, 95% of business, if not 100%, is about solving someone's problem. My problem is that my hair is too long. Okay, well, I need to go to a barber. My problem is that I'm bored. Okay, well, I'm going to go to a movie. My problem is that I'm hungry. I'm going to go to the grocery store. My problem is that I, want to exercise. I'm going to go to Academy and buy a set of weights. So whenever you look at it from a perspective of, like, solving a problem, you understand that as a business, your business is to serve. It's not to order people around. It's not to tell them what to do. It's not to patronize them. It's to serve them. And if you can understand that concept, you can do business in a way that's not toxic. And that's what so many of these developers just don't seem to understand. And so many businesses don't seem to understand either in general.
The average player doesn't care about who's managing the Discord or balancing the damage numbers, but they do care, and they do notice when somebody from that team acts like the audience is beneath them. When you push players away, don't be surprised when they don't come back. Games are already expensive. Don't make players pay for your ego, too.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that these companies underestimate how many people use social media, which makes a lot of sense seeing how much they spend on their marketing budgets. But it doesn't take a whole lot to come across a stray quote or a headline. You don't have to be watching videos like this. If you are remotely interested in Borderlands,
the entire idea that everybody now, like, and also, like, think about the level of disrespect that these companies are exhibiting by even using this as an argument. It's okay for us to sell a bad product that's discussed online in depth about it being negative and problematic because we have an army of retards that are going to see a commercial for it on TV and buy it anyway. What a shitty business model. Like, really, I mean, what a cynical, shitty business model that is.
There's a good chance that you're going to be scrolling Twitter or Reddit or YouTube or whatever it might be, and you're going to see something, and all of a sudden somebody that had passing interest in something is going to pass entirely.
Yeah, exactly.
It's as easy as that. Once negative sentiment starts, it is impossible to put out. It spreads fast.
It is possible to put it out, but it's really hard. It took Starforge probably 6 months to rebuild that trust, if not longer. Think about how long it took for CD Projekt Red, how long it took for No Man's Sky. You can rebuild the trust, and oftentimes the trust being rebuilt makes it stronger than it was in the beginning. But at the same time, like, From Software hasn't really ever needed to rebuild trust, and I think that people trust them and I think they're great. Same as Valve. So, like, you don't need to do that. Rebuilding requires making a good product, yeah, and it costs a lot of money. It's better to maintain trust. It's cheaper. It's cheaper to maintain trust than to rebuild it.
Fast, hardcore fans, people making YouTube videos for Borderlands content, people that stream it and things like that, they might be able to brush it off, but the wider audience, no. The people that have been burned before, the people that are sitting on the fence, the people are wondering whether or not they're even going to be able to afford it, when something like this hits their feed, it just reinforces all of their most negative and worst assumptions possible. These developers are out of touch.
Every negative possible thing you can imagine is true.
The pricing is unjustified, and now here I am sitting here and seeing the CEO say that if I want to play their game, I need to dig deep to be able to be taken seriously.
Yeah, Jesus.
What really kills me is the complete lack of just living on earth when it comes to some of these executives. They cannot see anything past their own ego. You're sitting here telling me during a housing crisis, all this inflation, all these prices going up, you're trying to tell the common customer that we increased our prices, we increased our staff by 150 members, we increased our budget by more than twice the amount.
And you got to pay for it.
We're going to need you guys to be able to make that up for us. You overspent. You overstaffed. This is your problem.
You make a bad financial decision, and then you expect the customer to bail you out. That's not how it works.
But you want us to make that math work. No. Personally, I don't understand where all this optimism is coming from. Pitchford is acting like Borderlands is untouchable. But the way things have gone lately, you can only be certain that your real fans will be able to show up if you even have them. I am, for all intents and purposes, a diehard Borderlands fan. I want Borderlands 4 to be amazing because if it's good, I'll probably pour hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours into it.
That's a lot.
As somebody who grew up on Diablo and loves first-person shooters, this series has always felt like it was tailor-made for me. I love the build crafting, the endless loot, the tight gunplay, the class variety, and it's one of the best co-op experiences in all of gaming. When Borderlands is at its best, it plays like a co-op MMO with bite-sized storytelling.
That's awesome.
And it has some of the most creative combat loops that are out there. Sirens with their space magic, pet and turret classes, other characters serving as weapons platforms, guns that shoot guns, launch bees and scream at you, legendary drops that completely change your playstyle, true Vault Hunter mode, raid bosses, DLC that actually matters. And it's one of the last remaining franchises that hasn't thrown itself headfirst into live service hell. No battle passes, no seasonal resets, no login bonuses.
I mean, they're not going to do that at all with Borderlands 4. I mean, I'll believe that when I see it.
They're overpriced skin bundles, just a complete experience packed with content straight out of the gate with expansions that actually expand on something. In a lot of ways, Borderlands is a reminder of what games used to be before monetization warped the entire genre. But that's the thing. What Borderlands represents and what Borderlands has become are two completely different things. And what I don't think Gearbox has acknowledged or maybe hasn't realized is that Borderlands has a reputation for the few, not the many. On paper, this franchise is still giant. 93 million copies sold, a long list of mainline titles and spin-offs, massive brand recognition, but you zoom in and it starts to tell a different story. Borderlands 2 alone counts for 30 million of those sales. And just because a franchise has legacy doesn't mean that that audience is going to show up again. Look at Dragon Age: The Veilguard. That's a franchise that had critical acclaim, massive fan investment.
That's actually a really good example because Dragon Age Origins, I think, didn't it win Game of the Year whenever it came out? And like, did that help it whenever Dragon Age: The Veilguard came out? No, it was garbage. People hated
sales, but over the years, BioWare chipped away at the formula, changing the gameplay, shifting the tone, making thematic changes that didn't really sit all that well with players. By the time Veilguard rolled out, that reputation had already worn thin. The trailers didn't land, the tone felt off, and when it released, the audience didn't show up for it. It missed its sales targets, it didn't make its money back, and it didn't matter how loved Origins was. It only mattered how good Veilguard looked right now.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to guilt people into buying a game because they liked the game 12 years ago. I mean, especially not with all the bad press around it, too. It's not like it was only one bad thing about the game. There were like 10 bad things about it. Nothing about it was good. The combat looked like garbage. The graphics were garbage. The story looked weird. They had like weird woke stuff in it, too, that was alienating for people. Like, everybody thought it was bad.
Borderlands is not immune to that. Legacy can only get you so far when each new entry leaves a worse impression than the last. The pre-sequel was the first sign of this. It reused assets, leaned heavily on recycled systems, and told a side story that nobody asked for. It is still the worst-selling game in the series. Then came Borderlands 3, a mechanical leap forward that modernized the gameplay, selling 22 million copies, but it dropped the ball entirely when it came to writing and tone. I have a love-hate relationship with Borderlands 3. I love playing it, but I hate the fact that I'm playing that game specifically. The gameplay loop is incredible, but every time a character opens their mouth, I want to mute the game. They followed up one of gaming's most iconic villains, Handsome Jack, with 2 live-streaming space influencers narrating your every move. They leaned hard into this influencers thing, and even harder into the worst kind of millennial irony. Surface-level references, smug quips, and jokes less funny than watching The View. And probably the most damning part of the game.
That's one of the big issues, too, is that the writing is being done by millennials. Like, millennials have done irreparable damage to writing, and it cannot be overstated. Do you think the increasing price has anything to do with recouping money from the movie flop? No, because every studio's doing it.
They killed off beloved legacy characters and shoved new ones in your face like you were supposed to care, especially Ava. One of the most grating, self-important characters I've ever seen shoehorned into a major franchise.
Yeah.
The whole thing had this weird, forced female empowerment thing that was going on, but it was all corporate branding on top of these.
This is the problem, is that like everybody can tell when they're trying to push some like weird like women agenda or something like that. Like a lot of guys and like I think average people can tell. I think maybe they think they're being subtle about this, but if you're not even good at like if you can't even write good jokes, what do you think the chances are that you can write a good agenda? Well, you can't. And so people see what's going on and they realize they're playing a product that is fundamentally inauthentic. And that's why they stop having interest in it. It's a huge factor.
It just didn't land. It didn't work. It was bad. And the damage didn't end there. The backlash from Borderlands 3 carried directly into Tiny Tina's Wonderland, a game that should have been a slam dunk, expanding on the franchise's most beloved DLCs and turning it into a full game should have meant something, but the reception was room temperature, safe, forgettable. By the time it launched in 2022, a lot of the longtime fans had already tapped out.
Yeah,
the writing hadn't matured, the humor hadn't evolved, and critically, the end game was just non-existent. DLC never fixed that issue, and for a series known for replayability, Wonderlands gave players very little reason to come back. So post the peak of Borderlands 2, you've already expended much of this franchise's reputation and have burned out longtime fans, but I don't even think winning back old fans is going to be Borderlands 4's biggest problem. The issue that they're going to be running into is the damage that's been done to the brand, because Borderlands isn't just competing.
This is one of the big issues that a lot of people don't understand with branding, is that whenever a company's brand is damaged, it's something that happens over time. It doesn't happen like immediately. It's not like, oh, instantaneously the brand is awful and everybody hates this game. No, or this product. No, it happens like there has the first product that comes out that's bad, a lot of people can usually forgive that. But then whenever it's the second one and the third one, that's whenever people really start to lose interest. It's gradual. Yeah, that's what I think happened with Bungie. It's what happened with Blizzard. And it's what's happened with a lot of studios. And I think if Elder Scrolls 6 is bad, it's going to happen to Bethesda as well.
With other games, it's competing with its own reputation. The Borderlands movie bombed catastrophically, pulling in just $18 million on a $110 million budget.
Jesus.
Miscast, tone deaf, utterly disconnected from what made this series special. And for a lot of people, that's their first exposure that they've had to this franchise in years. Not the games, the flop. Then there's Take-Two's recent update to their end-user license agreement, a move so anti-consumer that it sparked a review bombing campaign across all of their franchises. Modding, bannable. VPN use, bannable. Exploits in a single-player game, bannable. Class action.
Why would anybody give a fuck about exploiting in a single-player game? How does that benefit the customer in any way to ban people for exploiting in a single-player game? Why? It's who cares? You bought the game. They've got your money. It like Elden Ring has a mod that turns you into a jet engine, and you can blow everything up as not a jet engine, sorry, a fighter jet, and you can go around and blow everything up instantly, and somehow that's totally fine.
Lawsuits? Wait.
So what happened?
Data harvesting, front and center. Meanwhile, their competition hasn't just caught up, it's already passed them. Deep Rock Galactic, Remnant 2, Helldivers 2, Risk of Rain 2, Monster Hunter Wilds, Rust, Lethal Company. The co-op space is stacked right now. Some of these games are cheaper, some of them are free, and most of them feel fresher and more ambitious than what Borderlands has been offering lately. All of this leading up to the real question, who is this game even for anymore? Because
it's for fat millennials that own at least 5 Funko Pops, that still watch Marvel movies.
People that grew up
That's
with
what
Borderlands
it's for.
2, they've grown up.
Everybody knows it.
20s, 30s, or 40s now. They have kids, careers, limited time, and they're not lining up to drop $80 on a franchise they used to love just because it says.
This is another, he actually brings up a really good point here. This is something I don't really talk about enough, is that when you're a guy and you have, like, let's even if you have a lot of money, buying a video game that you're going to play for 1,000 hours because you play video games all day has a higher value add for you than buying a video game that you can play for 3 hours on Saturday and maybe a half hour or an hour a couple of times on the week. And so that's another big issue, is that as people, get older and their priorities change, what happens is that now that value is no longer fully realized.
It's back. They want value. They want trust. And they're not seeing either. And
Keep
Gen
it that
Z
way.
players, they didn't grow up on Borderlands 2. They came up through Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, games that speak an entirely different language. Their first impressions likely came from Borderlands 3, Wonderlands, or the dumpster fire of
The
a
movie, yeah, exactly.
None of that reflects Borderlands at its peak, and none of it really sells the fantasy. And that's what makes this also risky, because legacy players aren't impressed, and new
also,
audience.
I feel like the graphics haven't really improved. Like, I think that there's a way to do this graphical style that's way cleaner and better than what they're doing. And how they're handling this is very, very mediocre. It's literally the same. Yeah. It's like you should, like, why, like, for example, like Dark Souls 1 and Elden Ring are the same style, but they just keep getting better. Where it's like when I look at Borderlands 4 and I compare it to what Borderlands 2 looked like, it's basically the same thing.
Never cared in the first place, then who's going to be left to rally around this game? 6 years have passed since Borderlands 3. That's long enough for a generation of players to move on and forget or form new habits. And the longer that you're gone without momentum, or in the case of Borderlands, killing your own momentum, the harder it is to claw back relevance. You need every advantage that you can get. You need a pitch that resonates beyond your core audience. But instead, Pitchford's comments feels like he's betting on...
Well, he does have a pitch that resonates beyond his core audience. It's resonated with everybody, and everybody's come together to say that he's a retard. So it's resonated with the entire internet. It worked.
On legacy, like Borderlands, is still a guaranteed seller, and it's not. And even if longtime fans do return, telling them to find a way to pay $80 is a hell of a tone to strike. It does not build trust. It builds resentment. It makes the franchise sound like it's still stuck in 2012, riding on the high of Handsome Jack.
Nothing is ever guaranteed.
Back in nostalgia, but that world is gone. This is a different industry, a different audience, a different world, and Borderlands doesn't get to act like it's the only game in town anymore. So yeah, while Pitchford might think that real fans are going to find a way, the reality is some of them won't, some of them didn't, some of them are going to see the price, they're going to remember the quote, the jokes, the movie, and they're just going to walk away, because even the most loyal players eventually stop showing up when the brand they loved stopped speaking to them.
That's what happened with WoW. Is that over time people just lost interest with the brand. And I think that's what happened with Overwatch as well. Is that, like, if you mismanage a brand, it doesn't die overnight, but it dies over 3 or 5 years, and it is not a fiery, you know, like, they don't burn out, they fade away. And it's sad.
Look at Halo. This hurts
Halo's
to say,
a great
but everything
example of
past Borderlands 2 has not aged well. Not at all. In fact, the writing, the characters, the themes that they use, the jokes that they use, it's cringe. And cringe is not going to move copies.
No.
And that's one of the reasons why the narrative lead for Borderlands 4 came forward and said, hey, this game's going to be much more darker. It's going to be much more grounded. It's going to be a little bit more serious. And I hope that's the direction that they go in. Because people's opinions are based off of their first impressions. And this series has not done a good job with first impressions for quite a few years.
This is the reason why, is that, like, I mean, if you can't even manage to make a good first impression, what are the odds you can make a good game? Really? Judge a book by its cover? Absolutely. If you can't even manage to make a cover look good, bro, you do not have your shit together.
Years.
Come on.
I want this game to be good. God, do I want this game to be good. But
you gonna play it when it comes out?
Gearbox does not have a leg to stand on when talking about betting on fan loyalty. Because you've burned that for the last decade. Real fans are going to find a way.
Real fans are going to spend $80 on this bullshit.
I don't think that they understand how far their words carry.
Yep.
Pitchford obviously has a lot of confidence in this game, and I think that's really important to have. You want to be confident about the game that you're making.
Sure.
You need to lead with that. Why wouldn't you just say, I don't control the price, but whatever that price is, I can promise you that we will deliver on it. That's all you would need to say.
He's actually right. That's 1,000 times better to say it. Why didn't you just say that?
In most cases, most people would just move on. You know, Borderlands does have value. It has something that we just don't really see a whole lot anymore, which is it is a self-contained price in most cases.
Yeah.
I don't think the game's going to have any microtransactions. It might have a season pass, but that's all going to be for DLC. It's basically a
We'll see about that.
Captured in time. And that's something we're celebrating. How did you not lead with that? Why would you not lead with that? Why aren't you using that in your marketing? Why aren't you parading that around on Twitter and on social media and saying, we don't have microtransactions? Remember when Borderlands, or no, Larian Studios had on Baldur's Gate 3's website
that they don't have
a little FAQ that says, we believe in having a self-contained experience and no microtransactions and delivering on the price.
Yes, I distinctly remember reading that on stream and being like, oh, yeah, true, dude, based. Oh, wow, I can't wait to play this game. Never played it, by the way.
Product or whatever it says, that went viral. An FAQ in the bottom of the website went viral.
I bought the game.
Why aren't you doing that? Do these companies really not know how the internet works? I don't think they do. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video.
I think they
did enjoy the video. Like the video, share the video, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. Peace.
Family.
I actually think that's exactly what it is. I think that they don't understand the internet. They don't understand these issues. And I think especially for guys that are older, like around Randy's age, they don't really understand a lot of the struggles that the average video game age player has. And so for them, these things seem normal, but they're actually extremely tone deaf, right? Like, that's really what I think is happening. There's the video right there. Give it a like. I completely agree with this, by the way. $80 for a fucking video game like this. Again, I would have no problem paying $80 for an insanely good game, but we're not talking about an insanely good game. We're talking about this bullshit instead, right? And so I think that's a very big difference. Apparently, there's some big Night Rain event. Like, is this true? Are they doing a Night Rain event? I have no idea. Viewers high to low. Night Rain, oh, it's just a tournament. Okay, never mind. I thought there was something that was happening. And yeah, the drop nice on YouTube. Well, no, I'm not interested in watching streamers play the game. I don't give a shit about that. Like, I was curious if there was something that was actually happening that mattered. But no, okay. Yeah, who cares? And so when I switch to, yeah, I'm gonna play that. I'm gonna play it tomorrow anyway. I just wanted to double check. But before I move on, I want to say that, like, in general, this is exactly the way that I feel about this too. Is that the fact is that, like, a lot of people nowadays just simply don't have that much disposable income. And on top of that, there are so many other things that are eating into your income. And on top of that, you usually have, because you've grown up with these games, you usually have way less things that you have, like, way less time that you have to spend playing the game. So a value proposition, $80 for 150 hours is way better than $80 for 50 hours. That's it. Yeah, child support. Yeah, clearly, right? I don't have enough disposable income. Yeah, and I think that people don't really understand how much, like, wages and things like this haven't increased. And that's been a huge problem. So I need to do another Expedition 33 video. Yeah, I know. That game has done very well. And at $50, too. I'll be right back. Give me a second. A strong enough fan base to carry them? Yeah, I think Borderlands 4 will probably make its money back, but the next one won't if it's bad. I'll be right back. This cost me
control of your life. The instant you take control, interesting things will happen.
So we just got a brand new trailer for Mind's Eye, and if you're not familiar with this game, it's being made by Build a Rocket Boy, which is the studio headed up by a bunch of former Rockstar developers, and it looks honestly pretty good. The driving looks good, the open world stuff looks good, cutscenes look solid enough, gunplay's a little wonky, but also looks pretty good, and it's incredibly ambitious. I mean, everything they've shown is wild and crazy, and a lot of people have looked at this trailer, which now is going around social media, and they've said, wow, this looks pretty good. I'm gonna pre-order it. I'm gonna check it out. And I've seen plenty of people saying as much, being like, this is gonna hold me over until GTA 6, which brings me to this video I'm making right now, because I'm here to tell you that if you pre-order this game, you are almost certainly going to be wasting your money, okay? For $60, what they are offering here is baffling, okay? There have been previews that are just one gigantic red flag waving in the wind. There have been other development issues. There's other things like employees talking publicly about their experience at the company. There are so many red flags with this game. It's wild. So wild, in fact, that even now, executives at Build a Rocket Boy are accusing YouTubers and content creators such as myself who have made videos on the game thus far, calling out some of these problems, and they're accusing us of being paid off, implying that we're being paid off by Rockstar in order to make this game look bad or something to hurt its chances of doing well. Like, the whole thing is insane, and I'm gonna break it down for you because there's so much with this game that's unprecedented and not in a good way. So buckle up. The story is crazy. I'll give you a little bit of background so you understand more of what's going on and how we got here, and then I'll break down what's going on right now because it's insane. So get ready. This is a wild one. But real quick, a thank you to our sponsor, Incogni. Incogni is the data removal service that strips your information from all sorts of different online data brokers without you having to do so much as lift a finger. I've been using Incogni since August of last year, and as you can see, over that time period, they have sent over 800 takedown requests to countless different services online that collect your information from various sources and then sell it to telemarketers or political campaigns or whoever else. And furthermore, because it's an automated system, once you do the initial setup, you don't have to follow up on any of it. They do all of it for you, whether it's a very, very inconsistent or a very compliant service. They follow up on all of it, sending frequent reminders, following up on it to make sure your information gets taken down. You can see this one initially, they sent the request on August 22nd, and then it took until September 18th, but they followed up on it until it was resolved, and they stripped my data from that platform. And they do it, like I showed you, for hundreds of online data brokers. Since I started using Incogni, I have not gotten spam robocalls. I haven't had telemarketers call me, which was a major problem before I did this. I can't recommend it enough. It's great, not just if you're a YouTuber, but also if you're somebody that just values your privacy and your data, which is something you should do. So I heavily, heavily recommend Incogni. And right now, they even have a brand new service called Custom Removals. This means that if you find an online platform that has your information available on it, you can actually send in a custom removal request that Incogni will follow up on without you having to juggle it yourself. Literally, all you have to do is send a link to that website to Incogni, and then they will have their experts go through and file all of the legal paperwork to make that data get removed. It's awesome. Check them out at the link in the video description box below, and make sure to use my promo code Luke Stevens at checkout so you save money. And again, make sure to check out that unlimited plan that also has all of the custom removal tools. It's pretty sweet. But with all that said, back to the video. Now, like I said, a lot of what they showed, I do think looks good. Like, the graphics are really solid. I think the drone sections look cool. It's incredibly ambitious. They have missions that take place in space, apparently, for some reason. Nobody's taken that away from them, that they are trying to do a lot here. But as always, when you try to do a lot, you gotta be aware of your limitations and whether you can actually pull off what you're trying to pull off. And this entire project, MindsEye mixed with Everywhere, mixed with everything else Build a Rocket Boy, the studio, is doing, it just sounds like one gigantic example of what happens when you bite off more than you can chew and then get caught in a really bad situation and run out of money. And I'll break it down for you because it really is crazy, and I think there's lots of warning signs. But to fully understand what's going on, we need to rewind the clocks to when they announced this back in 2022. You see, back in 2022 at Gamescom in August, there was this trailer that dropped, which you might remember from all those years ago, where they showed off some like cartoony worlds, and the whole presentation was really, really confusing, but they implied that it was going to be a mix of tons of different experiences and different ways for players to engage with each other, and none of it really meant anything. But what this actually is basically a platform for players to come together and play different game modes, whether it's like a mini battle royale kind of thing or a racing game or platforming, and they can even make their own maps and levels and challenges in that world. And there can even be games within this Everywhere platform that you can buy separately and play within the platform, which is why they then show Link and Clay from Mafia 3, but in a new game with a new character. And it was just really confusing. Like, what did we just watch? What is even happening? I don't know. But basically their goal was to create Fortnite, the platform, and then create games like MindsEye that you could buy on that platform, and then they could build it out. So you buy like a skin in Everywhere, and then you can bring that skin into other games, or you can make your own game within Everywhere and maybe sell it to other people who could buy it. Like, their goal was to create a massive platform, which is incredibly ambitious, and I can appreciate that vision. But that sounds really, really expensive, right? And it sounds like it's very tricky to do that and then get people to give a crap. Like, Fortnite is the platform it is now because they had a phenomenally successful battle royale game. That's mainly why it blew up, and then people were like, oh, I'll try this other mode, and then they found success there. They didn't start with the platform. And I at least feel like Everywhere was trying to skip over that first part where you get a massively successful game and then get players in that way. But who knows? Maybe they can pull it off. After all, they've got Rockstar devs. About a year later, they would actually showcase what this looks like, and the Fortnite comparisons, I think, are fair. People would bring up that example plenty of times, but basically their goal was to create this massive platform for you to play with your friends in tons of different modes, create your own environments, challenges, maps, whatever, and just be the one-stop shop. So whether you want to play a racing game or a looter shooter or questing in an RPG or skee-ball or whatever, you can get that experience within Everywhere. Again, incredibly ambitious, absolutely, but really tough to pull off, to say the very least. But you'll notice something interesting in this trailer, which is that there's one section that is rewatched more than all the others. It's down here. What happens here? Well, if we click that, you'll see what happens is a little snippet of that. That's all they got, but that's what people kept rewinding to watch. And what this is a little snippet of MindsEye, which is the game we're talking about in this video, because MindsEye was supposed to be a game within this game for you to buy and experience and enjoy. But I know what you're thinking, Luke, dearest Luke, what do you mean? They're selling MindsEye as its own standalone game now. Yes, we'll get to that. I don't think they always wanted to. I think they are doing that now because they are running out of money, which again, we'll get to. Part of the reason I think that they wanted to combine these from the start and they didn't want to sell it as a separate project is because even in the marketing materials from not that long ago, all of the titles included Everywhere. So Everywhere -MindsEye teaser for 2023. And this isn't even conjecture. You can even see this in how they titled trailers and presentations going back 2-3 years ago when they initially were like showcasing MindsEye. Like in this teaser that they posted to GameSpot trailers where they titled it Everywhere -MindsEye teaser 2023. The goal was always to have MindsEye basically be a subset of Everywhere. You have to buy into Everywhere to get MindsEye. Again, very ambitious, I get it, but why are they pivoting now? Why is it now being pitched as a standalone game? Well, that's because things have not been going super great over at Build a Rocket Boy when it comes to this platform. You see, after the teaser for the Everywhere platform where they showcased all of the gameplay and that type of thing, they held an invite-only alpha that ran from December 5th to 18th in 2023. And as far as I know, they actually have managed to keep this pretty well locked down and people have not really leaked that much about it. But what we do know is that shortly after that, just a couple of months after that, Build a Rocket Boy announced a number of layoffs. We don't know exactly how many, but they announced a number of layoffs affecting publishing, QA, and art departments across their 3 different locations. This may not have been directly as a result of negative feedback from the alphas, but you always have to kind of pay attention when an alpha happens or a playtest happens, and then big things happen in terms of company movements shortly after that. Like, for example, we just talked about on my live channel how they held allegedly a closed playtest for Fair Game $sign recently, and the feedback from that was, again, allegedly, so negative that Jade Raymond, who co-founded the studio, actually left. Like, the playtest was so bad, apparently, that they fired one of the founders of the company, or at least welcomed her to retire or move on or something, which is not great. But I mean, you could say maybe it's a coincidence, but is it though? Like, it sure doesn't sound like a coincidence. I'm just saying. And in this case, it's similar. They do a big play test for the Everywhere platform, and then they fire a bunch of people shortly after. I mean, if it quacks like a duck and it looks like a duck, it might just be a duck. That's what I'm saying. allegedly. But these layoffs didn't stop them from working on the game. They kept working on it, and they put their heads down and continued to chug along. And they've made a good amount of progress. You know, they started showcasing a lot more of it. They started getting to the point where they thought they could actually release it. They announced a release date of June 10th. Yes, just like 2 weeks away from today. And then they held a preview for MindsEye. The Everywhere platform has been largely absent from all of the marketing materials at this point. They do say that they will have elements of it within that. For example, in this post, you can see that they say you can play MindsEye on all platforms, and then they have a building tool within MindsEye for PC only that lets you create your own game modes from scratch, set up missions, place NPCs, adjust vehicles, create logic systems, blah, 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 which you can see that editor here and how that'll work, which looks kind of cool. I appreciate that. But it's not being framed as part of Everywhere the same way it was just a year and a half, 2 years ago, which is weird. But what about the previews? What about the previews? The people that actually got to see MindsEye. Well, this is where things get crazy, okay? This is where things get insane. There's 2 previews I want to point to and shout out. Mr. Matty Plays got the chance to preview it early, and I'm going to talk about some of his stuff that he saw and experienced at that event because it's insane. And then the other one comes from Spawnwave, which also is another big YouTube channel and makes really good stuff. He also got the chance to see the game and talk about it. He had a lot more granular detail about the game and some of the nitty-gritty stuff, so I'm going to condense some of what they talked about in this video, but as always, you should go watch their full videos if you want their full breakdown of what they saw. Links will be below. But what exactly did they see? Well, this preview for MindsEye was held just a couple of weeks ago, and it was held remotely through Teams. Now, remote preview events happen all the time, especially back a few years ago during the dark times. It happened a lot. So this is not crazy. Using Microsoft Teams willingly is a bold choice, but I've heard crazier stuff. But what's even crazier is that the preview was not a hands-on preview. They did not let them stream the game to their own computers and play it like through Parsec or another similar tool like GeForce Now or something. Instead, this was a hands-off demo where they were expected to sit in a call on Microsoft Teams and then watch a video streamed to them of somebody else at the studio playing the game. A little weird, but again, I've heard of that happening. You know, it's not that common. I've never heard of it happening 2 weeks out from launch. At that point, the game should be ready to like go and let people play. But you know, I've heard of remote sessions. I've heard of remote previews. That is a thing. It's weird it's happening so close to launch, but whatever. But this is where the train totally went off the rails. You see, they were not allowed to capture their own preview footage, which kind of makes sense. It's being streamed remotely to them, but they weren't even being provided recordings of what was being streamed to them that would have been recorded locally. Instead, they were told that the only footage they could use when talking about their preview was B-roll provided by the publisher. This B-roll conveniently did not feature any of the serious bugs or problems that were shown during the preview. So it looks really good in the trailers and in the B-roll, but that is not at all what you should expect when you play the game, which would be the uncut footage that was streamed to them, right? Makes sense. This is the same exact stuff that happened back in the day with Cyberpunk 2077, where like reviewers were not allowed to use their own captured footage and could only use B-roll provided by the devs, which is insane. Like, whenever you hear that, I'm just saying, hoist the flags, you know, hear the people sing, march down the streets, do whatever. Like, I don't even know. But major red flags when a publisher 2 weeks out from launch is not letting media use their own footage. That's insane, especially when the footage they would be showing would make people realize how broken the game is. But speaking of how broken the game is, I'm just gonna let Maddie explain this to you because I could not believe it when I heard it. But seriously, something insane happened at this preview event that I've never heard of happening before, and I will let Maddie explain it because it's crazy.
I've never seen this in my entire life. The demoist used invincibility to get around 2 different encounters in 2 different missions that they otherwise would have died in because they were very clearly unbalanced. Again, I have never seen that before. That is like mid-production stuff, like when you have not balanced your game and you're like, we just need to test if this can go like start to finish and like the skeleton, the quest works. that's what you do.
Again, I agree with Maddie. I have never in my life seen a dev or a marketing person do that in a preview for a game, much less a preview for a game this close to launch. It's insane that they would do that. Like, they're trying to convince you this game is good and that you should pre-order and get your audience excited for it, all this. And they can't even do not just one mission, but 2 different missions that they chose to show media because it's probably the best that they have to offer. And they had to toggle God mode on in order to finish them. Like, I cannot believe that that's happening. And I mean, I feel for the devs because the devs, I'm sure, are like, they're very capable, smart people. Nobody in their right mind thinks that that would be a good idea or a good way to convince people your game is ready for like prime time. It's insane. So you have to pause and be like, okay, well then why is it happening? Why would they be showing a game that's so broken you have to turn on God mode and invincibility in order to just get through the mission when you're weeks away from launch? Why would they be doing this? Well, it certainly would suggest that they need a delay, right? Like, it really would start to look that way. Why are they not delaying it? And I mean, again, I think it's probably because they are running out of time, which is another way of saying they're running out of money. And I think all of the pieces of this puzzle start to line up and look that way when you look at the broader picture. You take a step back and you look at everything going on with Everywhere, with MindsEye, with their marketing push at the very, very end, with how they refuse to delay it, even though previews are alleging it's very, very broken. All of this really starts to look like the company is just throwing this out as a Hail Mary, hoping that it can bring in the money they need in order to keep development going on the major platform, which they hope is the ultimate moneymaker. And what's wild is that this game looks really ambitious, right? It looks massive. It looks crazy because they've got driving. They've got this big, seemingly open world. They have all of these different types of enemies. But once you pause and you start looking a little bit deeper, you find out a lot of concerning things. This game is priced at $60, which is sub-premium pricing. That would be 70 or 80 bucks. But at $60, they are saying that this game is going to be roughly 15 hours, which it might be. It could also mean 15 hours for completionists, 10 if you're not. Like, already, this game is way smaller and shorter than you probably are thinking. And all of the previews are suggesting that it is terribly broken. At least it was a few weeks before launch. And again, I just cannot stress this enough. These previews are where companies show media and creators and stuff the best that they have to offer, okay? Like, what they saw, what Maddie saw, what Spawnwave saw, what they saw was the best because they're trying to convince media to convince their audiences that this is worth getting. And so if this was the best that they had, what do you think the worst is like? Just how bad do you think those inner city sections of gameplay run? Just how broken are some of the quests? You know, you really have to pause and wonder, okay, if this is the best they have, what's the worst? And it's not a great thought that anybody should be thinking 2 weeks before a game launches. And when you look a little bit deeper into the company culture and stuff, as you can see in this thread by Game Roll, you start to find out some really concerning stuff coming from people who have worked there previously. If you're not familiar, you can go on to websites like Glassdoor and you can actually leave like a review for a company that you've worked for. In this case, you can actually go on a site like Glassdoor and find reviews from current and former employees who have left these reviews. Now, these can sometimes be faked, and so you should always take them with a grain of salt, but there also are very legitimate reviews mixed in with these. And when you start to see a more niche company like Build a Rocket Boy, I'm more inclined to believe a lot more of these than dismiss them wholesale. And what you see as a common thread is that the management is terrible. 12 different reviews mention no benefits and no priority given to the well-being of employees. That's not great. That's really not great. This review posted back in March, so before any of this like latest drama kickstarted with the company. They said, there is nothing positive here. The most toxic, unethical senior leaders I've ever encountered. It's not great. It's not good. Really, really not good. That's not great. And again, the more you dig into these, the more crushing they are. Like, if you have a second, just pause the video and read through some of these. Like, they are wild terrible stuff about a culture of fear, about how the only way you can go anywhere in the company and avoid getting fired with less than 24-hour notice is by being a yes man to further your career and to just tell the upper management exactly what they want to hear. And other stuff with like culture wars within the company, crunch. It's just nonstop crunch for months and months and months. And again, when you look at these reviews and they all are mentioning crunch and they're all mentioning the toxic work environment, you start to get the idea that they are frantically trying to throw this together before they totally run out of money. Again, if it looks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And at this point, it really is starting to look like they're running out of money and they're getting desperate, which is why they're rushing this out when it's not ready. But how is the leadership of Build a Rocket Boy handling all of this? I mean, I've made plenty of videos on this whole thing on my second channel. If you've not seen them, Luke Stevens Live, as you can see here, we just did a video 3 days ago going through the preview reactions. This one, less than a day ago, talking about the previews and these employee things. Again, if you want like breaking news in the gaming industry and you want to hear me talk about it, follow my second channel, Luke Stevens Live. I cover it all very, very fast. So again, get subbed over there. But how are they handling these negative reactions to the previews, to the bad reviews and all this? Well, Game Roll, again, shout out to Game Roll, managed to find these little snippets. And this is absolutely crazy, okay? The co-CEO of Build a Rocket Boy, the developers behind MindsEye, has accused content creators and media outlets of being paid off by other studios, even implying Rockstar to talk negatively about their game. When asked why he made these baseless accusations, he backtracked and refused to acknowledge the things that he had said. But what exactly did he say? Well, in their Discord, you can see this user asked him, do you think that all the people who reacted negatively to the preview and to all of this stuff with MindsEye were financed by someone? And he says 100%. Might be a joke. Still not something that an executive should probably be saying. A co-CEO for a studio implying another studio is paying previewers to talk negatively about your game is an absolutely wild comment to make in a public environment in any situation. And he goes, not wild when it's true, ... Ooh. And then you can see people being like, what? He says, no, I never said that. I do know that there are bot farms posting negative comments and dislikes. Okay, I don't know if that's true. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And then this user is like, so was this just a joke? As this answer directly refers to other studios, which is what's being implied by these statements. It's just not great. I mean, again, this inference of Rockstar was beneath his 100% confidence that all of the people who reacted negatively were being paid off. And they're like, lol, doesn't take much to guess who, which again, all of the comparisons between this game, MindsEye, and Rockstar's GTA 6, those comparisons are constantly being made, not just by other people, but also by this company themselves. They are actively trying to market this in that way to fans of GTA 6 as an alternative to GTA 6. Again, Game Roll clipped this from their official promoted ad on Reddit, Uncover Your Truth in a World Ruled by AI, and they call out the pre-orders. And in this promoted post, they are pushing an article that says MindsEye could be the perfect game to ease the wait for GTA 6. Like, the whole thing is insane already, but to imply, even half-jokingly, that the people who are being critical of you are being paid off is a wildly stupid thing to do as an executive of this company. If they are sending out checks for talking poorly about MindsEye, which seems to be a dumpster fire, I've not received one, and I would love a check. I love money. Who doesn't? But like, that's not happening. People are just seeing this thing that is riddled with red flags, and they are calling it out. Like, it really is not that complicated, okay? Like, what's more likely? This massive conspiracy is happening, people being paid off as part of some concerted effort because they're so threatened by your game that doesn't work? Or maybe people are just looking at your product and realizing it doesn't work and trying to tell their audiences, don't buy this until we know that it works. Maybe when the game launches on June 10th, they'll blow us away and it'll be wildly polished and it'll be exactly what they kind of hoped it would be. It'll be incredibly ambitious, super fun. It'll kickstart this new universe of everywhere. Maybe, but probably not. I mean, again, any other company, any other game, if we saw a preview 2-3 weeks out from launch that was so broken the devs had to turn on God mode and refuse to let people capture their own footage, that would immediately be called out. Immediately. and nobody would question it. It would not be a big scandal. It wouldn't be this big thing. Like if Ubisoft did it with an upcoming like Assassin's Creed game, we would all call that out. If EA were doing that with Dragon Age, we would all call it out because it's insane to do that. Again, there is no need for a massive conspiracy here. Maybe it is as simple as it appears to be, which is just that the company is seemingly running out of money, so they are crunching and going crazy hard with development, trying to finish this. They refuse to delay it, even though it really needs a delay, because they don't have the time and money to do it. They wanted to launch this within the Everywhere platform that they announced years ago, but they realized that wasn't doable because the platform wasn't ready, or people didn't like it, or both. And so they instead are trying to launch MindsEye as its own product separately outside of the Everywhere platform. And they're running out of time and money. So they're just trying to throw it together and hope that it works. I think that is way more likely than this game is actually going to be a masterpiece, and Take-Two Interactive is so worried about it cannibalizing GTA 6 sales next year that they're trying to create some sort of targeted effort to pay YouTubers and streamers and content creators to talk poorly about the game because the preview was bad. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's crazy and also wildly entertaining at the same time. I mean, it really is outrageous, but that's just where we are. So where does this leave us at the end of this whole thing? Well, I think a lot of what they've shown in like these trailers, these cinematics, this very iRobot-esque sequence with the robots jumping on the car, this looks cool. I would like a super polished game that's cinematic and very, very action-packed. I would like this game if this exists. My point is, there are many red flags that suggest what you will get on June 10th is maybe 1% this and 99% broken, disastrous attempt at a Fortnite ripoff game that very much feels like it was thrown together at the last minute. And that's not what I want to recommend my audience to engage with. I don't think that's a good idea. You can see that they pitch it as combining with this build mode, which could be cool. But again, there's just very little reason to think that this is going to be ready for prime time when the previews were so negative. It's just, again, if it really looks like a disaster in 5 different ways, it might just be a disaster. You know, either this game is the most unlucky thing that's launched in the last few years, or it's exactly what it appears to be. And I hope they figure it out. I hope they get a delay, or maybe the game actually is very, very well polished and put together, and it's gonna blow people away when they see it, and that preview was just a fluke. Maybe that is what's happening. Damn, this is a lot of content roadmaps. Golly. This is wild, dude. There's gonna be new races, checkpoint races, drone races, exotic packs as part of the premium pass. Okay. So they're going to have like an in-game store to do things like that. The free pass. Oh, there's multiple passes. Remember when we were freaking out over the potential of an Assassin's Creed Shadow, like multi-battle pass, mini battle pass thing in like the Animus Hub and stuff. And then that ended up being like stripped out of the game, it seems, because we talked about it so much before launch. But this game actually does seemingly have multiple passes. So there you go. But here's the thing. Again, I think a lot of what they showed looks cool, looks interesting, and I would like to play it, and I hope it is what it appears to be in these trailers. But the problem is, once you dig a little bit deeper, it just looks like a dumpster fire. And maybe it won't be, and I will be very happy if that happens, because we'll have another cool game to play this summer. And I really hope that they surprise everybody and the devs get a big old bonus and they get to take some vacation. I hope that it's a happy ending. All I'm here to tell you is that if you look at it skeptically, there's so many red flags. It's like the opening of Les Mis when Jean Valjean is pulling the flag out from under the ship. Like it's so massive a red flag that it should freak everybody out, and nobody should be touching this with a 10-foot pole until reviews and previews and things come out from trusted sources. And until that point, I would not mess with this at all. I'm guessing after this video, I will not be receiving a review code. I don't think they ever were going to send me one, because I'm also not sure if they were ever going to do reviews at all. They might honestly just drop this thing on June 10th and be like, oh yeah, we forgot to do review codes. Sorry, big oopsie on us. I don't know, but if they want to convince people to buy this, they need to send out review codes. They need to let press and media play it, have plenty of time with it, test it, and push the game to its limits. And then if it actually is that good, tell that to their audiences. But if they go radio silent, if they try to lock this down and keep it super kind of coy and secretive, I think that will tell you all you need to know. But let me know what you think of all of this in the comment section below. The previews for me, I think, are the most damning thing. If all of the previews are negative for a game and they're saying that it's horribly buggy, it's super broken, they're not allowed to use their own capture, and I mean, at some point that has to mean something just a few weeks out from launch. And in this case, I think it has had a major impact on the game, but it's starting to seep into audiences that have not heard much about this game before, and they just see this trailer that's very, very polished, and they think, oh, so the game is going to be like that. And that's why I hope this video at least gets some eyeballs on it, so that, you know, people don't make that mistake. Because if the game's amazing, wait till June 11th, and once everybody's saying, oh, the game's great, it's actually really, really good, the previews were wrong, or the previews didn't end up being indicative of the final product, that's fine. That's great. The game will still be there on June 11th. I'm just saying, don't spend money until there is a reason to believe that your money will be well spent. And right now, there's a lot of reasons to think that your money will be misspent if you buy this game, pre-order it, and just trust them, because there's a lot of reasons not to trust them at this point, okay? Again, I'd love to be wrong, but don't think I will be. But with all that said, thank you for watching. Shout out again to Spawnwave and Maddie for doing those previews and sharing their experiences with us. Without their hard work going to that preview and sitting through it, we would not be able to talk about this as freely and have the very important information that we have now to make a more informed decision. So shout out to them. Again, I encourage you to go watch their full previews linked in the description box below. But with all that said, thanks for watching. I love the gosh darn heck out of every single one of you. Thank you for making my dreams a reality every single day. It's insane that I get to do this for a living, but I do, and that's thanks to you and people like you watching, liking, and sharing the video, and subscribing as well. So truly, truly, thank you. But until next time, my friends, much love, hugs, and kisses. Bye-bye. CD Projekt Red Group Q1 2025 earnings. It's happened, my friends. It's happened. The quarter ended. The executive leadership over at CDPR shared their earnings call, or shared their earnings and talked about their broader company strategies. They shared some promotional stuff, updated us on dev times and progress on recent projects, all sorts of interesting stuff, which I'm going to share with you today, because this happened like an hour ago, which is always fun to see. One of the reasons I also like these from CDPR is because a lot of other companies, like you listen to an earnings call from EA or Take-Two Interactive, and it's like pulling teeth sometimes. It's like, we're really excited to announce that our EBITDA is going up by 2.5% quarterly. And year over year, our attach rate on mobile game spending has gone up by 7%. Like, it's so boring. It's so boring. But with the CDPR ones, not only do they invest in high quality graphics, which I appreciate, but also because they share some fun little tidbits that we can look at and run with and infer a bunch of stuff from, as you will see. So first things first, they of course have to shout out the Switch 2 port of Cyberpunk 2077 coming on launch day, June 5th. Apparently this isn't even that profitable on the physical copy side, because the cards that the game has to go on are so expensive. It's actually very, very little profit margin for the physical copies of the game, despite, you know, being so expensive to begin with. But if you buy digitally, I'm sure they're making a hefty profit. I've not seen this myself, the port in like person. I've not ever held a Switch 2, and I don't plan on owning one anytime soon. I'm not buying one at launch, so I'm not super sure how well it runs. But what I have heard from people who have seen it, like we talked to Jor got his hands on one at a preview thing for Nintendo, and he said it actually is a very, very impressive port. It's actually, it runs shockingly well and looks very, very good as well. So make of that what you will. It seems to be a decent port. They also announced Phantom Liberty. The expansion for Cyberpunk has hit 10 million copies sold as of May 28th, 2025. That's crazy. 10 million copies for an expansion. And that is after Cyberpunk 2077. I think it's done, what, 30 million? So a 33% attach rate on a big expansion like that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty damn good. And I'm glad to see it because Phantom Liberty is the expansion that for me, like, gave me confidence in The Witcher 4. Like prior to that, I wasn't really sure what they were going to do. It was like, maybe it ends up being amazing. Maybe it ends up being a broken mess like Cyberpunk 2077 again. Like, who knows? But seeing Phantom Liberty be so good, so ambitious, so cinematic and everything, it really gave me confidence that they could pull it off again with The Witcher 4. So if you've not played Phantom Liberty, you should. They also announced that Cyberpunk 2, whatever they end up calling it, right now they're just calling it 2, has entered the pre-production phase. So it's out of the concept phase and it's entering pre-production. Now, pre-production is kind of a broad term in game design. It can mean a lot. It honestly kind of, from what I've seen talking to devs, it depends a lot on company internal definitions of pre-production, because some companies, they refer to pre-production as like, oh, we do a lot of the script writing. We might do some explorative things with like gameplay systems, but we're not doing like anything really active. We're keeping it very, very broad, you know, just running ideas around, which other companies, they define that as like the ideation phase or the exploration phase. So who knows exactly what this is, but it does mean things are moving forward at a steady pace. Most likely, I believe in that GDC talk about Phantom Liberty, they described pre-production, and this is when they're doing a lot of the gameplay systems building. They're doing a lot of the systems building. They're doing a lot of things like building basically all the tools that then level designers, quest designers can then use to plop things in the world. They build assets during this time. They do storyboarding. They do a lot of like the broader narrative. They might not be writing like NPC dialogue for when you're walking around the city, but they're coming up with the story. They're setting all of that up, figuring out where you're going to go, what the big set pieces are, all of that. It's basically when you are outlining the book before you go and fill out the outline with all the broader stuff. So at the end of the pre-production phase, you should know what game you're making, basically. They also, you know, celebrated 10 years of The Witcher 3, which is amazing. And they also announced they have hit 60 million copies sold. That's insane. That's straight up silly. 60 million copies sold. Tell you what, it's well deserved. Well deserved. This also, as you can see here, base game and game of the year version, not including expansions, sold separately. Golly. These ain't no NVIDIA numbers where they don't mean anything. 60 million actual copies sold. That's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. They announced 2.4 billion revenue. They also, this is the chart that's most exciting and interesting to me though. Development teams engaged in ongoing projects, okay? So they update this every quarter, they showcase it. We looked at this chart back in February when they dropped it. Back February 28th, they had 411 people working on The Witcher 4. They had 84 people working on the next Cyberpunk game. Okay. They had 49 people working on Project Sirius. Project Hadar went from 17, it's now up to 19. Shared services, which they actually have an asterisk on it. It's localization, quality assurance, data, insights and experiences, and AI. Okay. And then that went up by 6 people. And then you can see other projects with 2 asterisks. What does this mean? Including unannounced projects developed internally or by third parties. The number of third-party developers included or involved is not included in this count. Ooh, other unannounced projects. Okay. Insights and experience. I'm guessing a lot of this, so they have development teams listed, and so I see you asking about GOG and that. I believe they separate that out as a separate team. They don't consider that necessarily developers. It's like a separate part of the company, I believe. They might be including like experiences, insights and experiences as part of that, but I don't know. I would guess it's a separate thing, But they are saying they've gone up 23 new roles. They've gone up to 730 devs. 400 are working on The Witcher 4, though. And they are steadily increasing the number of people working on the next Cyberpunk game as well. And again, this does not include people working on outside projects, such as the remake of The Witcher 1, which is being headed up by the team that did the Thaumaturge. And so that's not, I don't believe, included in these numbers either. As for financial results, again, this is all in their local currency, PLN. The conversion rate, it's PLN to USD. 1 zvolte, I believe is how you pronounce it, is roughly a quarter. It's 27 cents. So yeah, you know, it's, you just cut all this down to a quarter and you can translate it. But in terms of broader trends and strokes, the takeaway is that CDPR, for having not released anything the last few years, is actually doing quite well. It's actually doing quite well. They actually last year, I think, had the best year they've ever had for not releasing a major product during that time, which is good. That's what you would hope to hear. And it shows that they are continuing to bring in money from The Witcher, from Cyberpunk, and all of these. It's also, this is one thing I think people can often forget, is that these games are not, like, we play them because we're hardcore gamers, dab on the haters. Like, we play games a lot, we're very involved, but a lot of people, they jump into these games a year, 2 years, 3 years after launch. And so it's like, just because we played it at launch, we thought about it a lot at that time, and then we moved on, that doesn't mean that those games stop generating revenue. Games like The Witcher 3, Cyberpunk, The Witcher 2, Witcher 1, all those expansions, they continue generating crazy amounts of money, all, like, you know, years and years later. It really does. Cyberpunk 2077 and the expansion in Q1 of 2025 generated 143,000, or in this case, thousand, so 143 million Polish zloty, which translates to, you know, tens of millions of dollars US, 30, 40 million or whatever. Still generating crazy money. Witcher 3 and all of its stuff, less so, but it's also because it's a much older game on steep discounts. And this is why, you know, companies, again, people will be like, how do big companies like a Ubisoft have 20,000 employees? It's because, again, like, those games continue to sell like gangbusters years and years and years after launch. People still go back. I mean, still, GTA 5 is still at the top of these charts years later. It's still always like in the top 10 most sold games of every month on Steam. Like, it's insane, but that's just because these games have legs, as it's called. You can see they mention GOG stats, and they announce year-over-year changes from quarter to quarter. And overall, the company's really, really healthy. You can see net profitability. Oh, baby. Oh, look at those margins. Oh, baby. As for deferred taxable assets, property, plant, equipment, investment properties, and stuff, they continue to invest significantly in future projects and things. They've continued new development amortization during these, so they're financing a good amount of stuff. But overall, I mean, they're very capably run. Research, development, product maintenance costs. So development expenditures, new products, assets capitalized. So the blue section is what they're spending on development. Green is research. Yellow is maintenance on things that have already released. So that might be, you know, patches, updates, things like that. But you can see it's just, they're steadily turning the dial up, spending more and more and more, going deeper and deeper. And this is going to continue going up pretty much right before The Witcher 4. And then it's going to get dialed up even more probably as they continue to grow into the next Cyberpunk game. Changes in cash, deposits, and bonds. Bonds are something companies use to raise money from investors, like corporate bonds and stuff. It's a pretty standard way of doing it, in addition to like stock issuances and things like that. Cash, deposits, all self-explanatory. Board recommendation concerning dividend payouts. Dividends are one of the ways you can signal to investors that you're doing well. It's one of the ways that they do that is just to be like, yeah, we have so much extra money, we're making so much money that we can give it back to you. We can give it to investors. And there's some companies that make really, are really generous. Like Coca-Cola, I think they pay out like a solid, every quarter they pay out like 50 cents per share. It's not like insane for the yield that you're actually getting out of it, but they do quite well. It's not always just about the stock price going up. It's also about the dividend that you're receiving on the back end. But dividends are like a common way of just signaling confidence in your product that, hey, we're going to keep doing well no matter what. And they are recommending a dividend payout of 1 Polish złota per share, which is actually not bad. Not bad. So they're doing well. They're very excited about all of this. They're putting a lot of eggs in the basket of The Witcher and Cyberpunk, as they should. The results kind of speak for themselves in terms of the revenue that's being generated even now, years after the fact. But yeah, they're working their butts off. They're working their butts off. Realistically, I think we see The Witcher 3 or Witcher 4 still probably like 2027. That's my guess. I think the odds are pretty high. It launches damn close to Elder Scrolls 6. I think they're lining up to launch right around the same time. And after that, the sequel to Cyberpunk, they are saying that they are making progress and their hope is to release much closer together. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that looks like. I mean, if that means that they can get it out 2029, 2030, that'd be great. But, time will tell. Time will tell. Do you think we see multiplayer with Cyberpunk 2 like one was supposed to have? I have a feeling. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of stuff like that. I have a feeling Cyberpunk's sequel will basically be everything that they initially promised and wanted to do, and they're just going to make sure to get it right this time because they fixed a lot of their structural issues, allegedly. But it's looking good. The company's healthy. The company is showing all the right signs. It's what you want to see. So, yeah, everything's good. He took my thing. Red flag, red flag.
16 times the detail.
Battlefront 2 has been popping off. Everybody is probably aware of it at this point. It's been going viral. People have been playing it and eating it up.
Take a look at this. Listen to this.
Here are the questions from the actual people. For Douglas, what is your reaction to the UK Supreme Court declaring that the definition of a woman is, well, we should include you in this too. It's about women, is based on biological sex and excludes transgender people. Yeah, this was a big ruling this week in England.
Big deal.
The Supreme Court,
Very
their
big deal.
definition of woman is biological sex. To put it in shorthand, J.K. Rowling won.
She did. She actually did. Yep. That was funny.
Yes. J.K. Rowling won. Everyone who said this for years has won. All the, particularly women who've been defamed and lied about and bullied and chased and much more for years, they were right. And
Fucking based.
And I just think, apart from being a statement of the obvious, isn't it amazing that the best legal minds in Britain spent years having to work out the first thing we knew as a species?
Yep, that's right.
But just to be clear, we're not saying there's not such a thing as trans, right? We're not saying there's not such a thing as someone who was, quote unquote, born in the wrong body.
I don't think people get born in the wrong body now.
Oh, I do.
I do.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a default setting for humans.
Yeah.
Like, we should acknowledge that. It's not just every time there's a baby, ooh, who knows what the fuck it is. That's crazy. But there are
Beyond me, yeah.
but there are variations.
There are variations.
Homosexuality.
That's right.
And,
It's a continuum.
And then, you know.
The premise of this is completely wrong. The reason why the premise is wrong is because it implies that a person shouldn't be able to choose what they're doing, and the only thing that matters is what is an extrinsic variable. It shouldn't, like, I don't care whether being gay is a choice or not. If you want to suck another dude's dick, that's your right to do it. It's a free country. If you want to wear makeup and wear a dress and dress up like a girl and say you're a girl, it's a free country. You should be able to do that. So the entire premise around whether you're born in the wrong body or not, I think subverts the truth is that even if you're not born in the wrong body, you should still have the right to do whatever the fuck you want with your body because it's your fucking body. That's it. It's wrong. There's a lot of things that people do that I think are wrong. Fuck them. Let them do what they want. And I don't like the premise of this, the fixation around did they choose to do this or not. It shouldn't matter whether they chose to do it. It shouldn't matter whether they were born with it or not, because if you're an adult, you should be able to make decisions about your life, and you shouldn't have the government making those decisions for you. Agree, but leave the kids alone? So true. Yes, I don't give a fuck. Like, you wanna suck dick? Suck dick. You want to dress up like a girl? Dress up like a girl. You want to dress up like a guy? Do that too. Do whatever the fuck you want in your own time by yourself. That's it. Being gay is not a gender anyway? No, but the argument is that people are born gay. And what I'm saying is that if you are born trans or you are born gay, that does not change my perspective on the issue, because ultimately a person has the right to free expression, and that is separate from what somebody's immutable characteristics are. Does that make sense? You can't be born trans, though? I'm saying that that argument is irrelevant to me. Like, I don't care about that. It doesn't matter. Like, there's no... That doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't mean anything to me.
But it's how we handle that.
That's right.
I mean, and I think we would agree that, children, and this is where America is now an outlier country. We're the only country that went full, and I guess Trump is reversing it, but certainly under Biden, who went fully toward that. Like, we don't care what age, kids can self-diagnose themselves. I mean, that to me was going way too far on this. Again, nobody just comes back to the sensible center.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the sensible center is that, like, you respect people, you trust parents, you let parents figure out what to do with their kids, and you don't need to...
No, it's not. You don't believe that at all. Like, if you were talking about kids consenting to doing anything that was sexual, you'd be immediately against it. If you were talking about kids consenting to get tattoos, you'd be immediately against it. If you're talking about kids consenting to do anything else with their body that could be considered exploitative, like, for example, child labor, you'd be against it as well. This is just a retarded false premise that nobody actually believes in, and you're using this give parents the option idea as if this is some kind of get-out-of-jail-free card for justifying the behavior. But the fact is that it's not. It never has been. There are dozens of examples of it not being an example. You used to be able to sell your kids. You know the year it became illegal to sell your kids? My dad was still fucking alive, okay? It wasn't that long ago. And that was another thing that now is against the law that you can't do. So the entire premise that, oh, well, it's your kid, you can do whatever you want with your kid, that's not true, and she knows that. This is totally stupid.
A bunch of politicians in Washington making decisions about
That is not the Democratic position.
It's not a bunch of politicians making decisions for kids? What do you mean it's not a bunch of politicians? I wonder what her position was on vaccines. Oh, that's different. Oh, of course, everything's always different whenever you agree with it, which is why you can't make sweeping judgments like that. This is a stupid statement that's supposed to get people to clap because they don't want to have the government telling them what to do. But the fact is that she does want the government telling you what to do, but she just wants to be the one telling you what to do and not somebody else. That's the reason. It's just so one-dimensional and stupid that it's amazing that anybody can't see through this. It's hypocritical? Of course it is. It's hypocritical and self-serving.
Here in California.
Well, that's my position.
Yeah, I'll listen to it again one more time.
Reversing it, but certainly under Biden,
Yeah.
who went fully toward that. Like, we don't care what age, kids can self-diagnose themselves. I mean, that to me was going way too far on this. Again, nobody just comes back to...
It's not to you, by the way. This is to 90% of the country. This is a sick, very deranged, small, single-digit percentage of people that think this is normal.
The sensible center.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the sensible center is that, like, you respect people, you trust parents, you let parents figure out what to do with their kids, and you don't need a bunch of politicians in Washington making decisions.
That is not the Democratic position, at least here in
An
California.
outrageous oversimplification, an intentional oversimplification, in order to make people think that the government doesn't make millions of decisions like this for people. I think it is outrageous, absolutely fucking out. She's a moron. Well, she is saying the thing that she has to say. She is a Democrat senator from Minnesota, right? In my opinion, I wonder how many immigrants that they have over there from Mexico or wherever else, South America, and I wonder what her viewpoints on that are. It's probably, it's intellectually dishonest, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. And so there you go. That's it, bro, you got it? Yeah, it's just embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Dan Patrick assaulted a reporter. What a fucking lot. That's Tim Wall's turf. Yeah, I guess so. And she's sitting on a political fence. Minnesota has a massive migrant population. Is that true? I wasn't aware of that. If that is true, I didn't know that. I actually assumed the opposite. So I could be wrong. But anyway, let's see here if I can find the rest of it. But yeah. And we refer to as Minnesotans. Tim Walz is an idiot. Yeah, I guess so. But either way, yeah, the Supreme Court ruled that a woman is a woman. Can you believe that? That's crazy. Wow.
There's a hyperpolarization happening among the younger generation that's substantially more pronounced than the older generation. And the younger generation is substantially more considering violence than the older generation did.
Well, that's because the younger generation feels like voting doesn't work. That's the problem, is that, so this is the big issue, is that, so number one, obviously you have like media and things like that push it. But whenever you have to choose between a douchebag and a turd sandwich every 4 years, and then maybe every once in a while you think that you're going to get what you want and then you don't. You know, Obama promises change and then changes his mind with like ending the wars and like, you know, Afghanistan and stuff. This is going to frustrate a lot of people. Yeah, that's it.
So when you look at the polls, it's really interesting how the polarization expands.
I can see that.
Yeah. So, you know, I would say like the bulk of our viewers are probably in their 30s. So we have 18-year-olds too, but they're a smaller percentage, but basically 25 to 54 who watches us.
Right. So, yeah, he has the same people that watch me. Yeah, that's the same thing.
Got a lot of people in their 30s.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is, and this is true for people on the left or right, doesn't matter who you are, someone's going to take something you said, it's going to be pulled out of context.
Of course.
And then it makes people go nuts. So, you know, there's so many of these things that are absolutely wild for me. So I don't have the worst of it. There's other people in media that have it substantially worse than I do. Their Wikipedia pages are just rife with weird, fake nonsense that's made up.
I mean, I just don't feel like anybody in this country can even presume that what people think about them is anywhere near the truth.
No, the thing is, same goes for Republicans. No, and I think that's the case, is that I think that people have become tired of how cumbersome the political process is and how often they vote for something and then they don't get it. And it's like, if all the people want this, but there's some system or some rule that says that we can't have it, well, why can't we just change the system or the rule? Because ultimately, like, the system or the rule was made by people, so why can't you unmake that rule? And so, and that, no way, right? Exactly. And I think that's the main reason why people are fucking annoyed. So there's been a sounds like a scam. Create another clash. Yes, this is the greatest minds of the Democratic Party at work. Breaking. The Democratic Party plans to spend $20 million to reclaim support from young men, from the New York Times. The plan creates a strategy called SAM, Speaking with American Men. Isn't that SWAM? Oh, I spelled it wrong. Oh, yeah, okay, so yeah. No, is it?